Uh, since April 2019, which is when the 2019 National Books to Prisoners Conference in Boston happened, some of us decided to get together and start coordinating what might be the kernel of a national alliance. So there have been reps from groups across the country who have been coordinating through email to get a sense of what we think we might need, what the scale of this project might be, what kind of skills we might need in order to actually make this a reality. We've had one web conference to try to delve into this further, and Marlene has been working on a foundation of a shared website that could again have resources for both groups to share between themselves and to present to the public to help them understand who prison book programs are, how we operate, and how they can get involved. Next slide. What would be the benefits of an alliance, practically speaking? So as touched upon before, it could be a resource hub for the 36 groups that operate around the country in order to collect and share documents. For example, the zines that we often make and send, the rejection notices that we get, the different media outreach that we do. It could improve coordination between groups. We could be able to delegate alliance members as point people. We could reduce some of the dropped information, the misinformation that we often get when we're trying to help patrons when we don't necessarily know what operating procedures are at prisons, things like that. It can also help for the public in order for the public to learn about the work that prison book programs do, in order to more effectively find their local groups. Could serve as a centralized resource for existing supporters, or guide curious information seekers to appropriate groups. Again, it would also help to create a stronger network between the prison book programs that are already in operation or people who are considering creating prison book programs. The existence of an alliance could help as its own media strategy, having this national resource and new item of interest, boost our publicity, and also be able to work more proactively as we take on some of these larger battles, like fighting censorship and prison book restrictions that keep popping up across the country. And of course, having that stronger network would again help us share resources. For example, if we find a grant application that would be good for another group but isn't really great for us. For example, Books to Prisoners Alliance came across the Meadows Foundation a few years ago, and they do work that's primarily in Texas, but they would be a great example of a grant possibly for Inside Books, but not Books to Prisoners Seattle, since we don't do most of our work in that geographic region. Next slide. What we're working on right now is creating a Books to Prisoners Alliance website. And this would be the main public-facing front of what the Alliance is doing. Some of the components that we've been looking at have been things, as you see on this wireframe mock-up, a map that would show viewers of this website where all the groups operate, if they need to find a group in their local area where they can do that. So in essence, it would centralize the information, make it an appealing presentation to people who are seeking information about prison book programs, and would be a place that would have a centralized area for current information about groups, because that's oftentimes, at least for Books to Prisoners Seattle, a question that we get on social media. It would also, again, have areas where we could collect these repositories of resources such as artwork that we may have received, letters of thanks that we've received, the zines that we use, and even rejection notices, again, if we're trying to coordinate better to be able to address censorship that's happening around the country. And of course, it would allow us all to find new support for people who might be wanting to volunteer, or people who might be wanting to donate financial resources or books to their local group. or people who might be interested because they see a gap in coverage and they might want to fill that gap. Next slide. So I'll turn it over to Marlene to talk a bit more about what the specifics for this website might look like.
Emma, can you let me share my screen? I'm on as Lucy Parsons because I couldn't figure out how to log out of the Prison Book
Okay.
account.
We're getting there.
I have an alter ego today.
So I've just made you a host.
Okay. This will stop other screen sharing. Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. There's one more button. Okay. So I have been, so bear with me on this. This is nowhere close to even functioning, but I've tried to figure out how to make a site that has a very robust directory along with a lot of other information about the Books to Prisoners Alliance. So you're going to see a lot of information about cars on here because I imported a demo thing and that's all going to get turned into Books to Prisoners, but I haven't had time to finish this yet. But so this is a basic intro on the homepage. This is all to give you an idea of what we can accomplish with a public-facing website. So this is where we end up with the cars. I'm aiming to create a directory that's like this. Instead of cars, there would be a whole lot of listings of different groups. And what it would let us do, here's the robust part of it. We can adapt these search filters so that people can, for instance, search for groups that serve, and it would limit this list to groups that serve Texas or groups that are actually in Texas because maybe they want to donate books. So they can do that as well. And this is all very customizable. The other cool part of this is that every one of the groups, and I've identified close to 50 of them, can claim their listings and associate it with their own login so that they can maintain their own information. So that so that one person doesn't have to maintain information for 50 organizations. This lets us have a lot of information about each group on here. So we can have a description, we could have information on book donations or volunteering or whatever we want on here. And the website group has only met once, so we haven't gotten very far with this, but this is just to give you an idea. So yeah, we can also have a blog. This is just articles, or we could write our own articles, like something about what happened with the Washington State book ban. So yeah, I think there's a lot of power in doing this. And we've had this experience too, where people write to us and say, "Do you have a location in location somewhere?" And obviously, we don't have a location, but there's some like us. And there's something really powerful about, well, we all sort of work separately, and I think we saw the power of this at the conference, where when we're all together, it's a movement when we're all in one space. And so putting this all on one website turns this into a movement rather than a bunch of different people toiling away in our basements. So yeah, the other half of this too is one of the things that people have expressed an interest in is collaborating on restrictions with different prisons. And one of the challenges I found with that is that, at least with the prison book program, a lot of our restrictions are our judgment call. They're not necessarily set in stone by the prison. So like, for instance, a prison may reject a book, for something, and or like they may reject a book as too violent. So we may say, all right, no books with violence in them at all. Whereas a different group might make a different judgment call on that. So I think it would be problematic to have a list of restrictions. But what we can have is a way to collect all of our interactions with prison. So every time we get a rejection, every time we have a conversation, we can record all that in one place. And then each group, and this would involve setting up database, but so then each group can go and look and say, okay, I'm having a problem with the prison in Norfolk, Massachusetts. So we go and see who else is having this, if everybody else is having the same problem or if it's just us. So anyway, so
Yeah, to clarify, that's what I hope that came across in my portion of the presentation. Just
yeah,
the idea of having more information will make it easier to suss out when it's just an individual problem with a mailroom attendant who has bad information is giving us a weird rejection, or whether, hey, suddenly every single group is starting to receive rejections from this one prison.
Right, exactly. And that's what, I mean, and that's where we can act as a group. And right now we don't actually have that information unless someone puts it out on the listserv. But yeah, and even just a way, I think it would be great for even us, even individual groups, to be able to, because we sort of have a way of keeping track of our interactions with prisons, but having it in, I think creating this one resource for everybody would help us individually and collectively to deal with this problem. So anyway, so yeah, so that's about it. That's about all I have. Let me figure out how to give control back. Emma, can you take control back, or do I have to give it back to you?
You might have to give it back to me. It sounds so wonderful. I need that control. Yeah.
I don't. Oh, stop share. Maybe that helps.
Okay. Choose where it is. There we go.
All right, so like Marlene said, this is still in its nascent state. We need a lot of help to get this up and running. We need help both in terms of internal consensus from different groups. This is the perfect time to give input. What do you think that this alliance should look like? Who do you think it should include? Who should it serve? What should its exact purpose be? Do you have new ideas that we haven't discussed? Do you have something that you think should be included that we haven't? Do you have things that we've talked about that you think may not be as much of a priority? Who should be in this alliance? Who shouldn't be in this alliance? The Books to Prisoners Alliance Steering Committee has had a few discussions about this, but we want to make sure that as many voices as possible are included. And do you know of any groups who do not want to join? Does your group maybe want to opt out? We obviously don't want to list anybody in the alliance that doesn't necessarily want to be represented. And there are many reasons that came up at the conference why that might be the case. So just, again, your input is needed now to make sure that we do this in a way that is representative of and serves everybody who helps to maintain access to books in prisons. So in addition to finalizing what the alliance is and is not, we need people to actually help with it. So we have some groups right now, loosely defined, but we need more people in order to help turn this from just an idea into a practicable thing that can be put out for the public. We need people to help with the website and add content, again, once it's up and running. We need people who are interested in joining some of the different groups that will come out of the content that is on this alliance, such as the advocacy group. We need people who are willing to help with the logistics of implementation and its ongoing functioning. Next slide. So for that advocacy group, which is one of the parts that I am personally most interested in, we need to do things such as collect better information about the state of censorship in prison systems across the country. And as part of my work with the Human Rights Defense Center, I have been working to get banned books lists from states across the country. We've already seen some amazing things happen, like when we publicized Kansas's list of 7,000 plus banned books. And after enough people, including Felicia Day, hopped online and got outraged about the fact that they were being banned in Kansas, the incoming corrections secretary said, no, we're not going to be doing this anymore, and we're going to review our policies. We've also seen this recently in Ohio, where Ohio prisons had been deciding to make their own judgment calls at each prisons about how they were going to handle access to books, which resulted in a dozen different policies at different prisons, not all of which were logical or fair to the people who were being incarcerated, such as no used books. People who are in prison have to now purchase books through their inmate accounts, which of course adds an extra charge onto each purchase of an already expensive new book. So again, once we were able to find that information, get the memos, publicize it on social media, and get some other media like book involved to cover the fact that this completely unfair, arbitrary, and detrimental practice was happening in Ohio, the Ohio leadership stepped up and said, all right, we're going to revamp it so that every prison has the same policy. So there is power in getting this information and being able to effectively deploy it, but we need more help in order to ensure that we're still getting the most accurate and up-to-date information. We also need accompanying information in order to expand upon this project, such as getting information about prison libraries. One of the things that was discussed at the conference and has also been useful in practical terms in Illinois, as one example, a journalist went out and found that the amount of money that had been spent to get books for the Illinois prison libraries during all of 2017, if I remember correctly, was $276, which is just a stunning figure. They found that information, they put it out on media, and now for the next year's budget, Illinois prison leadership has declared that they will be spending, if I remember correctly, something like a magnitude of 1,000 times, so like $300,000 for the next budget cycle for books in Illinois prison, because the information was found, publicized, and they were shamed essentially into actually supporting the people who are in the prisons. But that can't happen if we don't have that information. So more public records requests in order to find the information about prison library budgets, the kind of purchases they make during each budget cycle, staffing levels, things like that. And then also tablets, which is something that a lot of groups have expressed concerns with, and of course was the foundation of what happened in Pennsylvania in 2018, where the prisons declared that there was some emergency about contraband coming in and they scapegoated books. And what appears to actually have been happening was an attempt to push people onto these GTL tablets that would cost $150 along with ebooks that people in prison would have had to buy for up to $24.99. Again, we know that there are problems happening, but it's really hard to get traction on any campaign to push back against it unless we have detailed, accurate, and current information. So for a long-term advocacy goal of the Alliance, one of the things could be to try to find that information and address it on all of these different fronts in order to convey to the public why our programs are still necessary and vital, and the kind of great work that we can do when we all are able to share those resources. So there's things like that, and there's also coordinating statewide campaigns to fight censorship. I'm not going to go too much into this because Andy will be speaking about this later on today in relation to how we fought the Washington prison book ban and how some of the best parts of that campaign could be translated into future work. But essentially a long-term advocacy goal of the Books to Prisoners Alliance could be to help coordinate some of the legislative work, some of the on-the-ground advocacy in the states that are still proving to be extremely problematic, like Indiana, Michigan, Kentucky, some of the states that just have very bad prison book policies or bad ways of tracking the books that they are not accepting into the prisons. I think that about covers that. So next slide. If you're listening to this presentation and you're really interested in helping to get the Alliance off the ground, the people who have been so far involved in the steering of what the Alliance is going to look like in the future would be great people to contact. Marlene, who is the co-presenter on this from Prison Book Program, has been involved with the website development, and her email is on the slide. Terry Leclerc, as mentioned before, has been trying to gather some of the information not only about what areas and demographics each prison book program serves, but also some of the policies at each state. You know, how many books can a person have in possession at any given time? Things like that. Her email is also on the slide. We also have Jody Lincoln from Bookham in Pittsburgh, and Joan Ross from Books to Prisoners Seattle, and myself, who, again, I'm very interested in the advocacy component of this and what can be affected when we do more to try to coordinate between groups in order to push out on social media some of these egregious things that we're seeing across the country. So feel free to contact any or all of us if you are interested in pitching in with this, or if you have any questions, or if you have any input about what you think the Alliance should look like moving forward. And that's all that I really have for this presentation. So thank you very much.
It was an awesome presentation, and I would just open up the floor if anybody would have any questions for Michelle or Marlene, if she's still there. And yes, that's David S. Funkins.
Very topical.
I was told that that $12.99 suit that he was wearing now goes for about $100. If you want to be him this Halloween, just as a heads up. Are there any questions in the chat box? Yeah, let me see. No. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time, Michelle. And, thank you so much for getting up so early to make your presentation. And, we'll be in touch, and we'll be hearing some good things in the future.
All right, thank you all.
To Ithaca, and has brought really a lot to the table for us in terms of growth. So very exciting stuff. So I'll get started on we're talking about opportunities and obstacles faced by college organizations working as a Books to Prisoners group. So we started off as an off-campus group, much like other Books to Prisoners organizations. It was in a local used bookstore, and through a local service opportunity via the college, a group of girls learned that they really couldn't sustain this organization off campus. They weren't getting enough volunteers, they didn't have the time, they didn't have the space, and they were offered to bring the organization up on campus. So we have been operating on Ithaca College's campus since 2014, and so that makes us going on 6 years, which is pretty exciting. We operate as the college mandates us to. So unlike a lot of other organizations that can kind of, have someone who's in charge and a lot of people underneath them, we have to have 6 permanent positions as mandated by the college. So we have a president, a vice president, a secretary, a librarian, a treasurer, and a social media coordinator. And we have to keep those updated at all times. So we have people regulating us, which is not so different from everybody else, but we have a little extra middleman. And we meet once a month to mail books, and we have weekly meetings to discuss current events, what's going on, and planning. We have a pretty different dynamic, as I've already mentioned, from a lot of other Books to Prisoners groups. We have really frequent leadership changes. So this can both be seen as a positive and a negative. We constantly have fresh ideas. Freshmen come in and they're really, really excited to join with us, which is pretty awesome, but also it can be hard because, as everybody I'm sure is aware, there's quite a bit of regulation in sending. So it can be a problem to have to kind of shoot people down. We also can struggle to maintain an e-board. So as I mentioned, we do have to have a certain amount of people mandated by the college to be serving on the e-board at all times. And sometimes, we have a lot of people attending events and doing things with us, but they just don't want to be involved in the leadership, which can just be difficult in terms of sustaining us. And inconsistency. Some years we have 20 freshmen who want to come to our events, and other years we have none. So it can be a bit difficult because people ebb and flow as well as interest. One of the pluses that we have definitely found being on a college campus is that we have a pretty good access to funding. We've been in talks with other organizations, and funding can oftentimes be a problem. College money is guaranteed for the most part. We submit budgets on a semesterly basis, so every August and every January, and for the most part they get approved. So we request the amount of money we think it's going to take to mail books, to get food for our mailings, and we usually get it, which is pretty fantastic. But it's closely regulated, so we have to submit an itemized budget, and we can't just really say, oh, give us $2,000 to mail books this semester. No, we have to give them a rough estimate based on what we've done in the past and what we think we're going to do this semester. So we have to be really realistic, because if we aren't, they will not give us money in the future. Also, there have been problems in the past with the school just running out of money. We have over 100 organizations on campus, inclusive of club sports, a cappella groups, which is really fantastic, but those can get very expensive. So they have over allocated themselves in the past and had to renege on giving smaller organizations funds. So we ran into a huge problem about a year and a half ago where this exact situation happened, and it put us into a pinch. So we had to do quite a bit of fundraising and stuff like that, but thankfully we haven't had to deal with that since. In addition to this close regulation, it's really great because we can bring in speakers, we can host events, we just request separate budgets for it, which is pretty fantastic if you ask me. That the college is willing to support us and help us bring in speakers or attend conferences and stuff like that. But the downside is it is so tightly regulated that they need quite a bit of advance on stuff like that. So most recently, the example comes to mind is attending the conference last spring. We really were looking forward to it, but unfortunately we hadn't found out about it in enough time to be able to get approval from the college. So it was pretty unfortunate that we were unable to go, but it was a huge learning experience for us that, it is hard to operate under some of these parameters at times. So sometimes it can feel almost as if we have to be so proactive that we can't ever react to things that are happening around us. So we have to be so good about getting our schedules and our budgets in place that we don't really have time to, react when things happen and say, oh, this thing came up, can we go? It can be quite a problem. The college schedule, which I already briefly mentioned, we're in class from the end of August, so around the last week, until usually about the first week of May, and that's not counting the 4-week Christmas winter break. We get a week for Thanksgiving, we get a week for spring break, and usually we don't operate during midterms or finals. So altogether, that brings us our operating down to probably somewhere around 30 weeks of the year, if not less, because our semesters are 15-week semesters. So this past week, actually, we had midterms, and it was a tough week. You know, it's hard to get people involved coming to meetings. But also we can't really accept any donations. All of our letters pile up over the summers. So we'll come back after, you know, our 3-month summer break and have upwards of 200 letters that have been sitting in our mailbox for 3 months. So that can definitely be a huge problem, but also it does kind of keep us fresh and on our feet and really focused when we do have our mailings. So we only have 3 to 4 mailings a semester, which is pretty infrequent, but we still are able to send out, I think last year we did something like 600 packages over the academic year. So it's not a crazy amount, but we are doing, you know, what's pretty reasonable for us. But it definitely does limit us. We do get backed up on letters. We had an instance 2 years ago where the organization that had been running Books Through Bars in Ithaca, their address had been being used for inmates to send letters to, and we had gotten about 500 letters from them that they said had just been kind of hanging around, which was really unfortunate because, you know, they said, yeah, these have been coming for the last year or so, and we're like, you know, these are a lot of people that we could have been reaching that just haven't had anything, which was really unfortunate. And the operation time definitely influenced that a lot, but it does keep us fresh and on our feet, and we do come back even more focused in August and then January after having some breaks. Abby goes home and works with Philly Books Through Bars, and usually sometimes we'll bring back some ideas. So it's pretty good that we have the breaks, but also definitely can be a detriment as far as, you know, doing our work consistently. Also, just being on a college campus is a really incredible place to be, especially in Ithaca. I'm not sure how many of you all know what type of town Ithaca is, but it is a very, very great place to be in terms of social activism and, you know, being involved. So there is another organization on Cornell University's campus, which is about 10 minutes from the Ithaca College campus, who run reciprocal arts with people who are incarcerated. And we have another organization on our campus that runs reciprocal arts with a local juvenile detention center. So being on a college campus is incredible because you have this incredibly collaborative space where people are willing to work with you and, you know, co-sponsor events or come talk to your organization about what they do and how that's helping out with what you do, which is pretty incredible. And it also offers a lot of networking opportunity with professors and different departments, because a lot of times our writing department, our English department, our politics department are really interested in events that we end up putting on. So we've hosted a spoken word artist who's formerly incarcerated 3 years ago, and we actually got a fairly large turnout from the communications school. And, you know, it's a pretty great place to be in terms of having people who want to work with you and learn about things, because, you know, most people who are in college are excited to learn new things, new topics, and Ithaca is a very, like I said, a place that's very interested in social change. So especially when we host events that are looking at social change and making a difference in the lives of people, we do get a lot of interest, and that's really great because that's part of the reason we do what we do, is to, you know, have an advocacy aspect. The downside of being on a college campus, though, is that we really don't engage much with the greater Ithaca community. So we started as an organization that was run by people in the community, but now that we are on the college campus, it's hard because we can't have anybody from the community be in a leadership position, and that's a college mandate rather than a personal preference. We have had people attend our events in the past, but usually they feel excluded because they can't be on the leadership team, and that definitely drives them away a little bit. We, it's something we've talked about again and again. We bring it up with our advisor again and again. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, we are a college organization, so we do a lot of networking with non-college organizations. But in terms of in-person stuff, we have to kind of limit it to the campus community because the funds at the end of the day are coming from the college to, for a student organization. Also, being on a college campus, Ithaca is a smaller college. We have 6,000 to 7,000 students, so we don't have the largest storage space. So we have had recent struggles finding a place to hold our library. You don't want to only have 100 books in your library. You want to have a very significant depth to it, and we have had many problems finding places to store books, and so that's definitely a limitation to being on a college campus, is that every nook and cranny is usually being used for something, especially on a smaller campus like Ithaca. So we do have to get pretty creative. We were recently allocated an old mail room to store our books in, so definitely some big stuff happening there. Also, as I mentioned with the funding, we have to have college approval. So at the beginning of every academic year, so in August, we have to get re-recognized as an organization of the college. So we have to attend workshops, we have to submit our mission statement and our legislation, and we have to get our budget approved. So it can be quite a few hoops to jump through, especially for college students who are coming back and getting into the swing of classes, to need to jump through these hoops and say, yes, 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 attend these things, take time out of our day, in addition to the time that we're already spending in meetings and such like that. So it can definitely be a lot of extra time that isn't necessarily being devoted to the organization itself, but rather to this need for the college's approval. They also, if we're going to do any type of special event, we have to get consideration from the college. If we're going to fundraise, we have to get a budget approved from the college and space to do it. We constantly, as a college organization, have to be in accordance with what the college wants, which seems very logical, but at the end of the day, it can be very hard. All of our travel has to be approved, all of our fundraising, like I said, all of our events. So it can get hard, and it can be frustrating, especially when you feel like other organizations on campus might be getting more consideration, or they get their things put through faster. But at the end of the day, there's a very select few people who handle college organizations on the campus, and that can make these things happen. So it can be a tight timeline, but it's kind of what we signed up for being a college organization, is we have to abide by the rules of the college. So that's kind of all I had fleshed out for everybody to listen to today. If you guys have other questions about what we do, how we operate, I'd be happy to answer them. And I also have our contact information if you guys would like it.
He asked what their contact information was, and Rachel thoughtfully provided it, booksthroughbars@gmail.com. Any other questions?
Yeah. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, Rachel. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. This is Adi. I'm with the Urbana-Champaign Books to Business program, and we are a non-college organization, but we also started a campus RSO on the local campus at the University of Illinois here, and that is just a year old now. And it was fascinating listening to your organization, how your whole program is just based out of college and how you actually receive funding from college. That's, I think, one area we need to explore, and we have only used the campus RSO as a way to funnel more and more volunteers to our organization. But this funding angle is definitely very enticing, and I think, yeah, listening to your talk made me think we should work on it so we can get the funding from college too. And
Yeah.
yeah, everything sounds great. You guys are doing an awesome job, and keep it up.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely a struggle at sometimes because, you know, we are students first. And so as much as we would like to give tons of time to this, even today, we're on fall break right now. So unfortunately, I'm the only one from our organization who's tuned in, and I'll be giving updates, you know, when we meet on Monday. But definitely it's really nice that the college is willing to help us out with the funds, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to operate.
Yeah, it's great. So do you get the letters to your own mailbox on campus?
So part of our funding that we get every academic year, well, we get it semesterly, but in the spring we get funds specifically for an off-campus PO box in Brooktondale, which is just a small town just off the campus. So we have people send letters there. That's been the convention since we started the organization on campus, because mail on the campus can get a little funky. So it's
Yeah, exactly.
easier.
That's the reason I asked. Yeah.
Yeah, it's much easier to have our own separate PO box, and we just maintain that. And you know, we check out our campus credit card that links to our account and go pay for returned packages, or if we, you know, whatever we need, when we need to pay for it, we check out the credit card. But we do have this separate off-campus PO box. And one of the members, so me, Abby, our president, or some of the other upperclassmen who have cars will go and pick up the letters just prior to our mailings monthly.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I'll definitely be in contact with you so we could keep in touch.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
It also looks like we have a question or a comment from Jane in Ottawa.
Yeah, so I see that you're having some trouble getting people committed to a Books to Prisoners mission. If I'm being 100% completely honest, we usually don't recruit people based on the social activism aspects. I am one example where my RA kind of dragged me to this organization. I was not kicking and screaming. I was actually very agreeable because I really like to do service, but a organization that was specifically focused on incarceration was something that was really new to me. We do find a lot of students on campus who have maybe learned about prison reform or the need for change in the prison system in the US and in other places, and it will pique their interest, but the literacy aspect and the advocation for literacy is usually what draws students into us. We're very fortunate to have a campus that also is really open to having us advertise. So we have a listserv that goes out bi-weekly, and it's called the Volunteer Listserv. And we get ourselves on the Volunteer Listserv every time we have a mailing. We also get ourselves on another kind of listserv, so it's called the Ithaca College Intercom, and it gets emailed out 3 times a week, really early in the morning, so it's the first email you get in your inbox, and our advisor helps with getting us onto the listserv every time we have a mailing or an event happening. We use social media pretty extensively. We have a Facebook page, we have an Instagram. We make all of our members kind of follow us and share our posts, and we talk about it. So we make Facebook events every time we have a mailing, and we share it. Getting people committed, though, usually you have to have them do it. So we usually, we'll get people who are interested, and they'll say, oh, this is really kind of cool what you're doing. But we'll say, then how about you come check out a mailing? Our first mailing is October 12th, and people will come out, and we have free food, which is always a plus side for college students. And then they kind of get hooked on the process, and we let them read the letters, and that really helps. I can't recommend enough what getting people hands-on experience can do for retention.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What I've done, because the group comes and goes, like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people and then not people. So I've been basically doing it myself for about 5 years and making sure the letters get out and the books get out to the people that write us, but we're having trouble getting access in Canadian institutions. So I'm trying to go to Canadian institutions. But what I've done, 3 years ago, I contacted Salvation Army Correctional Services.
Mm-hmm.
And we for volunteers now, I get people that have court-appointed volunteer hours that they need to comply with, and they can do it through volunteering with my group. And that's basically the only volunteers I have. But what's limiting with that is as soon as their hours are done, they're not in the group anymore. So I seem to be the only person that keeps on like year after year after year, which is okay. But I'm just trying to think how I can build that capacity, like how I can. But it's, even with students too, it's still limited because they're only there for a year, 2 years, 3 years, right?
Right. So,
like I graduated 2 years ago, so I started doing it when in the middle of my degree, and I graduated 2 years ago. But I've still, like I said, I've been doing it for about 5-6 years because I seem to be the only one seeing there's a need and that it's a service that we should offer to people. Right. So I'm just wondering how I could, what I put it on the social media, I put it on the website. I don't know. I have book sales, right? People sign up for mailing lists that they're interested in volunteering. I contact them. People hardly ever come. Right.
yeah, it's definitely a very hard situation. We are very lucky that we do have 6,000 students to draw from. So 6,000 students is quite a lot, and we unfortunately only get 10 to 20 per mailing out of 6,000 people that we're advertising to for long periods of time, and half of that is usually our e-board. So
exactly.
We're really good at dragging in our friends and dragging in people. We also have some college organizations like honor societies that need those required hours for volunteering, and we have them come and volunteer with us. But again, not all of them want to stay. But also, it is, I think, a little bit harder for me to talk on this topic because, when I graduate in the spring, I will be staying in Ithaca to continue with grad school, so I'll be able to continue working with our organization. But a lot of people will just leave and not necessarily continue to do this work. It's a select few that we have alumni who reach out to us who say that they're doing stuff like this, but it's definitely transient. but it's a good place to get volunteers.
No, exactly. And like, I need to do a lot more administration with the group because up to now it's been pretty slack. So I'm just trying. So I'm just trying to get more organization, more suggestions, more structure. Like, but that's time and commitment, and I don't want to do all the work myself. If it's a volunteer group and I want to give volunteer hours to people, right? It's a never-ending cycle. So I appreciate your input. Thank you.
Yeah, and I took down your contact information, so if we have any ideas, we'll be sure to forward them.
Thank you.
So someone asked if we have specific individual requests or specific books, and we pride them. So we provide as close of a match to somebody's request as possible. So we might have somebody who requests a Stephen King novel, and we have absolutely no Stephen King novels in our library. So we will try to match them as best as possible. So if we have something of a similar genre, we will give them that. And on our invoice forms, we have a very nice statement that we highlight if we don't have the book they're exactly requesting. And it says, "Thank you so much for contacting us. We're happy that you did, but we are run completely off of donations. So if we don't have work, please write back again, and maybe we'll have it, maybe we won't." So it's definitely hard, and we've had problems with this in the past of not having the type of material that people want, specifically in relation to law books or a lot of those really popular science fiction novels seem to go really, really quick. We do mail to Pennsylvania, so we do have invoice forms that go into every package. So that's kind of how that works. And kind of for the individual requests, we are completely donated, like I said. So it can get a little hairy when we don't have what somebody wants. We will occasionally hold off on sending somebody something if we know for a fact we're going to be getting a huge donation that we know might fit better with what they want, as opposed to just sending them something that they don't really care for.
Where do you get your books from?
So we are really great at asking our families for books. So we a lot of times will have family members who reach out and say, "Hi, I have a lot of books. Can I donate them to you?" And we say, "Of course you can." We run book drives on the campus. So every kind of near finals week, we'll set out donation boxes for soft cover textbooks because we get a surprising amount of requests for textbooks, and our college does have some that are offered in soft cover, so we are usually pretty good about getting some of those. We get a lot of inquiries on our email account. So our Facebook page does have a little blurb on it that says, if you want to donate to us, please reach out and contact us. So we get people who send messages to our Facebook page and also to the email account, which I manage, saying, "Hi, I have a lot of books I've been cleaning out. Can I send them to you? Or can I meet somebody?" We have somebody coming this Monday actually to drop off books. And, you know, prior to saying, "Yes, please send them, we would like all of them," we give them the regulations. So we don't accept anything that's hardcover as a rule. And because of the issues with storage space, we usually are looking for specific genres rather than just any book. Because we have been granted more space recently, we have been taking in just more donations in general. But yeah, so they can come from us, they can come from family members, the campus community, Ithaca community at large. We had somebody from New Jersey actually contact us last fall. It was a school, and they were getting rid of their entire library of class collections. And they had contacted us and they said, "Hi, we have 1,000 books. Would you like them?" We did not take all 1,000 because we did not have the space, and a lot of the books aren't highly requested. So we kind of picked and saw the ones that we thought would be best, and they met up with one of our members and they were brought back to Ithaca.
Awesome, thanks.
Any other questions? Or I think, wow, there was a lot of great discussion and information that went through there. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me.
And we hope to keep in touch with you in the future. See how,
Yeah,
how
certainly.
everything is working out.
Yeah.